All these portents of love the right hand of the Most High wrought according to the order most befitting his infinite wisdom. For before coming down to assume flesh in the virginal womb of this lady, it was proper that all his courtiers should acknowledge his mother as their queen and mistress, and give her due honor as such. It was certainly proper and just that God should first make her queen before making her mother of the Prince of Eternities. For she that was to bear a prince must necessarily first be a queen, and be acknowledged as queen by her vassals. That the angels should know her as mother was not improper, nor was there any necessity of concealing it from them. But on the other hand, it seemed due to the majesty of the divinity that the tabernacle chosen for his indwelling should appear before them prepared and adorned with all that was highest in dignity and perfection, in nobility and magnificence, to the full extent in which it was possible. Thus then was she presented to the holy angels, and recognized by them as their honored queen and lady. In order to put the last touch of this prodigious work of preparing the Most Holy Mary, the Lord extended his powerful arm and expressly renewed the spirit and the faculties of the great lady, giving her new inclinations, habits, and qualities, the greatness and excellence of which are inexpressible in terrestrial terms. It was the finishing act and the final retouching of the living image of God, in order to form in it and of it the very shape into which the eternal Word, the essential image of the eternal Father, and the figure of his substance, was to be cast. Thus the whole temple of Most Holy Mary, more so than that of Solomon, was covered with the purest gold of the divinity inside and out, so that nowhere could be seen in her any grossness of an earthly daughter of Adam. Her entire being was made to shine forth the divinity, for since the divine word was to issue from the bosom of the eternal Father to descend to that of Mary, he provided for the greatest possible similarity between the mother and the Father. No words at my disposal could ever suffice to describe, as I would wish, the effects of these favours in the heart of our great Queen and Mistress. Human thought cannot conceive them. How then can human words express them? But what has caused the greatest wonder in me, when I considered these things in the light given to me, is the humility of this heavenly woman, and the mutual contest between her humility and the divine power. Rare and astonishing prodigy of humility, to see this maiden, Most Holy Mary, though raised to the supremest dignity and holiness next to God, yet humiliating herself and debasing herself below the meanest of the creatures, so that, by the force of this humility, no thought of her being destined for the mothership of the Messiah could find entrance into her mind. And not only this, she did not even have a suspicion of anything great or admirable in herself. Her eyes and heart were not elated. On the contrary, the higher she ascended by the operation of the right hand of her God, so much the more lowly were her thoughts concerning herself. It was therefore just that the Almighty should look upon her humility, and that therefore all generations should call her fortunate and blessed. Instruction which the Queen and Mistress of Heaven gave me. My daughter, the soul that has only a selfish and servile love is not a worthy spouse of the Most High, for she must not love or fear like a slave, nor is she supposed to serve for her daily wages. Yet although her heart must be a filial and generous love on account of the excellence and immense goodness of her spouse, she must nevertheless also feel herself much bounden to him, when she considers how rich and liberal he is, how, on account of his love for souls, he has created such a variety of visible goods in order that they might serve those who serve him, and especially when she considers how many hidden treasures he has in readiness in the abundance of his sweetness, for those that fear him as his true children. I wish that thou feel deeply obliged to thy Lord and Father, thy spouse and friend, at the thought of the riches given to those souls who become his dearest children. For as a powerful Father, he holds in readiness these great and manifold gifts for his children, and if necessary, all of his gifts for each one of them in particular. In the midst of such motives and incentives of love, the disaffection of men is inexcusable, and at the sight of so many blessings given without measure, their ingratitude is unpardonable. Remember also, my dearest, that thou wast no foreigner or stranger in this house of the Lord his holy church, but thou wast made a domestic and a spouse of Christ among the saints, favoured by his gifts and by the dowry of a bride. Since all the treasures and riches of the bridegroom belong to the legitimate spouse, consider of how great possessions he makes thee participant and mistress. Enjoy them all, then, as his domestic, and be zealous for his honour as a much-favoured daughter and spouse. Thank him for all these works and benefits, as if they had all been prepared for thee alone by the Lord. Love and reverence him for thyself, and for all thy neighbours, to whom God has been so liberal. In all this, imitate with thy weak faculties that which thou hast understood of what I have done. I assure thee also, daughter, that it will be very pleasing to me if thou magnify and praise the Omnipotent with fervent affection for the favours and riches which, beyond all human conception, the divine right hand showered upon me.